Welcome back to Jedi Enclave. I'm Daniel.
I'm Chris.
And we're your hosts for Jedi Enclave Presents the Now This Is Podcasting podcast, a show that ordinarily happens every Wednesday at 6 o'clock p.m. Central, but this summer has not really happened.
Life has been weird.
Yeah. For example, oh my God. So we didn't have a show at all last week.
Mm-hmm.
My dog had a surgery.
Yes.
And
it was very traumatic for everyone involved.
It kind of was. It was kind of like our kid had a surgery and is... Just been it's been a whole thing, and I'm fine. Like there was a a 3 or 4 day stretch there where it's getting like 2 hours of sleep a night just because everything was happening and shit. So we are back just in time though, because in what
6 days?
Yeah, 6 days. Ahsoka premieres, which is going to be a big deal. I think it's going to be pretty awesome. And thankfully we will have a live show the day of, because it's doing a two episode premiere, right? Yep. So we will have recaps on the day of. So make sure you come by at 6 Central to check that out. Today we've got a little bit of news. Speaking of Ahsoka, there's a new Ahsoka trailer.
There were like a bunch of trailers and little spots,
little bitsy things. Yeah,
like we'll talk about it.
Yeah, the one that I was really interested in, we're gonna talk about. Some bad news maybe for Star Wars Skeleton Crew, and a lot of what we do today is going to be everything you need to know about Ahsoka leading into Ahsoka. Is it probably every single thing?
Probably not.
No, because I did most of it just from what I remember. I had Wikipedia open, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember that.
Oh yeah. She met up with that one Jedi who had his lightsaber and his cane. That's not
in my thing.
It's probably on the Wikipedia page, though.
It is, and I remember it, but that's not exactly that. That's super important. By the way, if you're listening to this as our podcast, which is on our YouTube channel, comes out every Saturday at noon usually. Time codes for our little discussion bits are in the description for the video, so go check that out. If you don't want to hear us drone on and on about a thing and you want to get to a specific thing, go check that out. And quickly, a thank you to Connor at the Star Wars Hub and Star Wars Veritas. He's our buddy. We like him. You would like him too. Go check his stuff out on Facebook. And while you're here, you might as well like and subscribe and share the stream.
I mean, you're already halfway there.
Yeah. It's like we won't beg you, but I'll beg you. If it would work. Like, if it made any difference, I would. Just let me know. Put it in the comments. Will begging actually work? And if so, I will beg you private. That sounds really dirty. We are on Discord as well. In fact, the link to all of our socials are in the description for this video. Go check that out. After this, 7 o'clock p.m. Central, we're playing Battlefront with the boys from Gremlin Squad. That should be, well, like it always is.
It will be a thing.
It'll be a thing that happens. Yeah. So let's start off with some Star Wars news.
Okay.
What do we got first?
Well, Disney just had a quarterly earnings call.
Yeah.
Like you do when you're a giant soulless corporation.
Yeah. Theirs didn't go so well either.
No. So they had a listing of all the stuff that's coming to Disney Plus, and Skeleton Crew doesn't have a release date on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interestingly, they also didn't have a release date for Loki, despite previously announcing that there was a date.
Yeah, there's even a trailer for that.
Yeah, so the prevailing theory here is that with the writer and actor strikes going on, Disney has no idea what their content pipeline looks like for the next year or so.
It's probably very dry. It's so dry, in fact, that they're putting out Jurassic Park 3D.
Oh, God.
Which is just the first Jurassic Park film in 3D. Like, that's what's coming to theaters, because everyone should brace themselves. We're not going to have anything for a while.
Yeah.
We haven't had late night in forever. And movies and TV shows aren't going to be happening with a couple of like weird exceptions. So that's great.
So there's just no shows, no movies. Ahsoka is definitely happening next Wednesday.
Oh, yeah.
We're pretty sure.
Yeah.
But past that, it's anybody's guess.
Yeah, they would have told us by now if Ahsoka wasn't that. Because if they waited until the day of and were like, oh,
sorry guys.
Actually, no.
But anyway, the theory here is that Disney only has so much stuff ready to go or in a shape that they can get it ready to go, and they're trying to stretch that out to cover the length of however long the strikes last.
Yeah. There was a couple of other weird things on this call. Like, we learned that they lost $230 to $250 million on the Galactic Star Cruiser hotel experience.
I'm not surprised, and I'm also not surprised that they closed it after that.
So, and I mean, that's the budget. It's like the budget of a big ticket Marvel movie, like 300 or around 300 million. So, and I know there's going to be a whole like, oh, go broke. First of all, which isn't true.
That's not the problem with this hotel.
Because let me tell you how Barbie did in the box office. Has almost, and will probably make $1 billion. Probably the highest summer earner as far as box office goes. Which I'm told from Facebook comments is very woke. Which I've not seen it. I wanted to see it, but my dog had surgery. So
go woke, get rich.
Yeah, it's exactly what happened with them. It's like there are so many other factors that the people who are just like screaming "go woke, go broke" because they heard it somewhere, and like it's literally the only thing they're capable of saying. It's like one of those action figures with the pull strings, but it's only one line and it's "go woke, go broke." Yeah. Like, of course, they don't understand anything about anything, so they wouldn't know all the weird, subtle things that go into this, and the fact that most of it is actually either because of, like, we're still recovering from a post-COVID world, which is still really kind of tough to figure out, and the writer and actor strike is, really grinding everything to a halt, so... If you don't know about it, just shut the fuck up.
One more complicating factor in all this. Yeah. Disney owns ESPN, and they have an ESPN streaming service.
Oh, of course they do.
Yes. They actually lost a shit ton of subscribers in India because ESPN lost the streaming rights to the Indian Premier Cricket League.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't realize. Is that a big thing?
Yes. Oh. Cricket is huge in India.
Oh.
And there's a lot of people in India, as you may or may
not.
Oh,
I know that. I don't know anything about cricket. But I know there are a lot of people in India.
Yeah.
Now you're speaking language I know.
Yeah. So all that lost revenue is also not helping Disney any.
Yeah. But I don't know. Like part of me is like, oh, I hope they burn, because I don't have any allegiance to Disney. They're a corporation. They suck. But on the other hand, it's like
they're the ones making Star Wars.
Yeah. Right. There is a weird rumor going around that Apple's gonna buy Disney.
That is also weird to imagine.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that pops up every year or so, and whether or not it's like my partner is kind of an Apple fanboy and pays attention to a lot of stuff like that, and he's like, that's never going to happen. So yeah, and then one of our viewers sent me something today about how they're going to put Disney Plus, they're going to put Netflix in charge of Disney Plus or something, which also isn't going to happen.
Seems unlikely.
Yeah, just let's give it to a rival and let them make money on it. So as you well know, Ahsoka's coming out.
This was one more news thing.
Yeah, I was about to go to the next one.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
Oh,
so as you well know, as I was saying, Ahsoka's going to come out next Wednesday. They've been flooding the YouTubes and everything with little TV spots and shit.
Little featurettes about Rosario Dawson talking about how much she loves the character.
Yeah,
and
right. And all the stuff that you would expect to see, like press rounds and some footage.
Way more than I would expect to see. Like, so this, I have two possible competing theories here.
Okay.
Number one is that Disney is really sure that they've got a winner here, and they're promoting the hell out of it because they think it's going to be really good and people are going to like it. Possibility two is that Disney is really desperate.
They want everyone to think they've got it.
They need this to win.
Yeah.
Like, after Mandalorian season 3 came out and was maybe a little bit disappointing, they really need a good Star Wars thing to preserve the brand.
Yeah, especially also like Kenobi wasn't amazing. Like it was fine. And I rewatched it and it was like I still enjoyed this, but it's not like amazing.
Book of Boba Fett was not.
Yeah, exactly. same thing. It's like season finale of Mando season 2 happened, and everyone got really excited about everything, and then
things have been kind of mess since.
Yeah, what's funny is that even in Book of Boba Fett, they're like, "I'll put Luke back in it." Everyone will think it's great, and it was a lot of fun, but like
it didn't have much to do with Boba Fett.
Because it had to do with Boba Fett. Yeah. So I as with everything, I'm going into it with an open mind, and I'm sure I will be more enthusiastic about it directly after experiencing it, and then when I go back and watch it, I'll probably have different thoughts about it because after the honeymoon is over,
Anyway, tell me about this trailer you're so excited about.
Yeah, so right. Okay, there were rumors flying around last couple of weeks. Everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, Hayden Christensen might actually be in Ahsoka." Now we already knew this because I'm pretty sure Kathleen Kennedy just told us.
Yeah,
she's like, Hayden Christensen's going to be in Ahsoka, but like a year ago or something. Yeah. So everyone's saying this. I'm like, yeah, no shit. Like we already knew this.
If Kathleen Kennedy says it, it's almost guaranteed to be canceled or something, right?
So this trailer came out that had a bunch of fucking Anakin Skywalker dialogue that wasn't just dialogue from the film or Clone Wars that was just kind of like dropped in.
No, this was actual.
Yeah, it was like
Hayden Christensen.
New dialogue.
New
not who is it? Matt Lanter, I think, who does.
I think so.
Anakin in Clone Wars. He says a bunch of shit. So I'm going to read. Where is this? Where is this quote? Where? I think I've scrolled down too much. Yeah. Okay. So he says, "In this war, you'll face more than just droids. As your master, it's my responsibility to prepare you. I won't always be there to look out for you." And then he says, "Don't be afraid. Trust your instincts. I know you can do this, Ahsoka."
So that first part sounds an awful lot like a flashback.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was trying to think about, like... So if they do flashbacks, they have to do a better de-aging.
Yeah.
Than they did in Obi-Wan. Because I love the idea of the de-aging thing with Obi-Wan and shit. It's just, it didn't look very good.
He looked 40 plus years old.
Which, we've said this before, Hayden Christensen looks great for his age. Like, I'd still do that. Like, I'd absolutely... beg Hayden Christensen to plow me.
It's just like
any fucking day.
He's not 20 years old or however old he was when he was making those movies.
And it's like he looks as old as Obi-Wan does in that scene. And you're like, it's supposed to be a man and a teenager. Yeah. And it's like, so either they just did that again and they're like, people will deal with it, or they actually because I'm pretty sure they just ran out of money for Obi-Wan and that's why the de-aging didn't work out so well. They actually sunk some money in it, and it ends up looking like Sam Jackson in Miss Marvel, which was really good. Or Harrison Ford in the new Indiana Jones movie.
Well, like in both cases, they maybe moved a little stiffly because those are actors that are in their 60s, 70s.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Sam Jackson was like 80 when he was in Miss Marvel.
But it looked real. Yeah, that's what mattered.
Captain Marvel, not Miss Marvel. What the fuck am I talking about? Or I don't know. I originally thought like they're going to do a lot of Force Ghost stuff because let me tell you, the Star Wars fan base would lose their shit if there's a scene and then it's Hayden Christensen in Force Ghost form, right? Like that would be so fucking cool, and I think people would universally love it, and they wouldn't have to worry about the de-aging thing because one, he's blue. And
and two, it
doesn't matter.
How the fuck do Force Ghosts even work?
Yeah.
Do you know how they work? Because I don't know how they work.
Right, yeah, because at the end of Jedi, he's like Episode 3 era Hayden Christensen. So like maybe they just put him in a wig and they're just like, try not to look so fucking old. we'll paint your face a little blue and then everything
just have
will
that
be fine.
Cocky little smirk that you had.
Which I think still probably is going to happen. But based on the dialogue, it sounds like they're talking during the Clone Wars. And maybe that's the extent of it. I would love to see, and I know people would like to see more Hayden Christensen stuff. He's, despite not doing a great job in the prequels, look.
He was not a good actor then.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't even go as far to say that. I've never, because I've seen other movies he's in, and I've always thought his performances were kind of wooden. I still love him. I still love him as Anakin Skywalker. Like, I can't imagine anyone else playing that part. A lot of it's probably the dialogue that was written for him too.
Yeah, that didn't help.
Yeah, but still, everyone is like all the shit people love from their prequels. He's definitely a part of it, and I think that whole generation that grew up with those films would really love it. So, bring it on! I want it inside of me.
Speaking of the Clone Wars, a not insignificant part of the Clone Wars, the original 3D anime cartoon, not the cool 2D one that everyone loves. That a lot of that stuff was done by an ILM studio in Singapore.
Yes. This was on the same quarterly earnings or the same earnings call, right? Or is it something
maybe?
else? Yeah, I can't remember.
Well, either way, that ILM Singapore studio is closing.
Yeah.
Which is really sad. It's an end of an era. They've been there for like 20 years.
Yeah.
This is sort of a consequence of the whole global entertainment industry kind of getting fucked over.
Yeah. Also, media is just kind of like everything is really changed. Like we've made this big shift from like media empires did media this one way for a long time, which was
broadcast and cable.
Yeah, exactly. And then like streaming came along, and just like every new innovation, they're like, it'll never catch on. It's like VHS. It's like, it'll never catch on.
And then it caught on.
Yeah, or DVDs or whatever the fuck. And they're like, streaming it. Like it's way too convenient and cheap. People never go for that. And they're like, oh shit, it's convenient and cheap. Yeah. And so like it kind of turned everything on its head. And I don't know if that specifically has anything to do with this one thing, but like the media landscape and how we consume, even how they make shows is a lot different than it used to be. Like shows are expected now to be of higher quality with better stories, and instead of like CSI Miami, where they're like, we'll just do a crime of the week and we'll have what's his fate, what the fuck, take his glasses off and we'll and like people eat that shit up, and then people just stopped eating it up, and it's like
we live in a post Sopranos, post The Wire world, where
Game of Thrones,
post Game of Thrones world, where people just expect their TV to be good,
right? And who knows what people expect with animation? I did read that that the like Lucasfilm as a whole isn't going to be affected by this too much. Like its ability to produce animation, and like I guess there were I can't exactly remember what I read, but
my big concern is for the Bad Batch, because like that's the same animation style. I wonder how much of that they were doing at the Singapore studio.
Yeah, but also, I mean, that's something that they could just outsource to somewhere else. I think they'll still get it done.
I'm not saying it's like, I'm sure it's still going to get done. I'm worried about the quality, I guess.
Yeah.
Because that's 20 years of institutional knowledge you're just scattering to the winds.
Yeah. We're not going to have new shows for another 20 years. So like we'll probably die before the next Bad Batch comes out.
Well, they had finished recording all the dialogue, which suggests that
the
actors and maybe even the writers are all done.
Yeah, if they're done with dialogue,
the director and the animators.
I really would like that industry to go on strike.
The animators?
Yeah, because that industry also is treated like dog shit.
I was reading about, I think it was a bunch of the Marvel visual effects houses were unionizing.
I did. I read that they were unionizing as well. Marvel, the Marvel side of Disney in particular, is really terrible to people who do animation for them. And it's just like everything you've heard in the gaming industry with like crunch and all this, like where you're expected to live at work like 24/7. And you got to shit in a bucket. You can't leave your desk, and you got to do all this shit and everything. It's really abusive and toxic and terrible, and that's kind of what they do with people who do VFX for shows and movies too.
And that all those issues are sort of compounded by the fact that like if there's any like visual effects are the last thing that happens in making a movie or a show or whatever. So if there are any delays further upstream, that all gets passed down, and you just lose time because no one's going to delay their premiere for some visual effects. Right.
And consider that the next time you look at something and you're thinking, this like in the season finale for Secret Invasion, being like, this looks real goofy. Like the VFX isn't that great. It's not. It was never given the chance to be really good. And it's not like the people working on that stuff are very talented, and if given the resources and the time, can give you something like Avatar: The Way of Water, which is mostly computer generated, and we cannot tell the difference. It is so fucking it's scary. Like I saw that in theaters, and I was like, that's not real water. I couldn't tell you the difference between that and real water, or any of the other things that they innovated for that. Like, if given the time and resources, those guys are fucking amazing. They do a bang-up fucking job.
They can make stuff like the Spider-Verse movies.
Right.
Which has its own horror story of abuse and worker mistreatment. But, like, those movies look stunning.
Yeah. So Scott says, "What's up? What are we discussing?" Oh, a bunch of stuff. Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Whether or not I want Hayden Christensen to plow me. I said that earlier.
Yeah.
Now everyone knows I do. Oh wait, never mind. Found the description. Good job.
There we go.
April says, "How Force Ghosts work is pretty vague." That's true.
Yeah. They work precisely as the director needs them to work.
You know what this comes down to also? So there's one of our mods for our page loves to if you're watching it right now, Jamie, I'm not trying to make fun of you because we're the same. He loves just for a second to suspend reality and pretend like the Star Wars universe is literally real, right? Mm-hmm. And I totally get it. Like I do the same. It's a world we like to live in, and it's a world we like to think about. I totally get it. There was this thing circulating around, which I'd seen a while ago, but when you watch Return of the Jedi, when Darth Vader gets shocked by Force lightning, you see like the outline of his skeleton, right? Yeah. If you freeze frame on one of the frames, you can see that whoever did the compositing for it made it to where like Vader doesn't have normal vertebrae; they look like machine parts.
Ooh. Right.
And this guy in our mod chat was like, "Oh, like when would they have done this? And like it was like, did he have a certain kind of surgery and blah 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 blah?" And it's like, those were not things George Lucas was thinking about when he had this when this happened. In fact, someone probably brought him like a previs or something, and be like, he probably didn't even notice it and was like, "That's perfect.
That looks great. Let's do it."
Because George Lucas is not a small details person, right? He still pronounced to this day pronounces Hoth as Hoth or Bespin. Mm-hmm. Like everyone knows how to pronounce fucking planets except for the guy who created them. I don't think it's ever called a lightsaber. Always calls it a laser sword, mm-hmm. because to him it's not this religious weapon that has a kyber crystal and blah blah blah. It's a laser sword. That's what he needed it to be. He's like, the guy has a fucking laser sword. Like, what else do you want from me? It doesn't diminish the creative genius he has. Yeah, it's just the way that he works is that he puts out the vision, right, and then he looks at concept artists and is like, make this real. And they do, and then that's what the story becomes. He just doesn't know any of that shit. I guarantee you, out of all the people in the world, like if all the Star Wars fans all entered a Star Wars trivia contest, George Lucas would be the first one eliminated. Because he doesn't know any... That's never what Star Wars has been about. Star Wars to George Lucas has always been about the characters and how they interact with one another.
And entertainment for children.
Yeah. And he's also freely admitted that he doesn't know a single fucking thing about the expanding universe from pre-Disney, like the novels and the books and shit. Like if you were to ask him what the Yuzong Vong was, he'd be like,
"I don't fucking know.
That sounds like a bad thing you should see a doctor for."
Yeah.
So yeah. Well, how do we get on there? Force Ghosts,
I guess.
Yeah, Force Ghosts. We don't know how they work because George Lucas doesn't know how they work or didn't know how they work. Right?
He just needed Obi-Wan to show up and say some cryptic things to Luke.
Yeah. Right, exactly. He's like he did a story based on a really basic form of the hero's journey. He's like, gotta have a mentor, and wouldn't it be kind of cool if the mentor came back and talked to him every once in a while from the grave? And then the concept artist is like, we'll make him blue. And he's like, fucking great, sounds great.
I like to imagine that one time during a New Hope's production, George Lucas and Sir Alec Guinness, got drunk.
Yeah.
And George was like, "You know what, Alec? I'm going to get you a check in the next movie, too."
Right. I'm pretty sure he didn't want to come back for it.
Yeah, he didn't.
And they were like...
He was like, "This is the schlockiest shit I've ever had to work in, but the check cleared, so I'm here."
Yeah, and for Empire, for Jedi, they were like, you can do all of your lines, you can do all of your things in one day. We'll film it in one day, and here's like $6 billion or whatever. And he's like,
all right, cool.
I'll buy a new house with that. That sounds great. All right, we're moving on. But which, by the way, we're doing a live show. So if you want to say hi in the comments or let us know what you're thinking, please feel free. Otherwise, we're going to move on to our next thing here. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, here's the thing. A new Star Wars Disney Plus show is coming out in just under a week. If you're watching this later, you're from the future. I don't know what to tell you. Like, the show's probably already out. Don't come at me about this. But there's a chance that you aren't like us and you know every little fucking detail about Star Wars there is to know about it. That's great. Maybe you have a significant other that does, and they've strapped you to the chair, and all you care about is Baby Yoda, but your significant other's like holding your eyes open like Clockwork Orange style. Like, you need to know everything about this before Ahsoka comes out.
You see that orange girl? She's important.
Yes, we'll tell you why. Get help. That isn't a man that you want to be with. Just saying. But we're going to give you the ultimate Ahsoka recap in an undetermined amount of minutes because this isn't finished yet, and I don't know how long it's going to take.
Well, let's aim for 20.
Yeah, it'll say in the title what it is. And then while you're here, make sure you like the video, give us a subscribe, do the bell icon. I think is the thing you're supposed to do. It'll let you know when we're live and we do new videos. We do a live show every Wednesday at 6, and we do Battlefront Star Wars game streams throughout the week.
I forgot my stopwatch. Are you ready?
Yeah. Okay. That's
and
fine.
3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah. I can see how long it takes in the video editor too. That's fine. You do you. You're doing great. Okay. If there's anything important that we missed, put it in the comments, and one of us will read them and lose sleep over them, I'm sure. So this isn't just about Ahsoka, by the way. Mm-hmm. I went through everything I could remember from Star Wars. I had my Wikipedia open, and I was like, okay, if I were explaining this to a significant other I've strapped to the chair and pried their eyes open, what would I tell them?
You preface this for like 28 seconds, still haven't told me anything about Ahsoka.
Okay, well, I can tell you she was born on a planet called Sheely.
Mm-hmm.
And they're kind of primitive, but they do this thing where, like, you know, it would be a really safe thing to do with an infant. We'll go on a solo hunt with them to go find these, like, really dangerous space panthers. Just the mother and the little baby,
sure,
right?
Yeah.
Great fucking idea. Very dangerous. Why the fuck not? So, as to be expected, Ahsoka's about to get eaten by a space panther, but, like, tames it with the Force. And so they're like, oh, this baby's probably Force sensitive. We should probably call the Jedi because they take Force sensitive babies.
They do Force things.
Yeah, and if we let them, they won't do it against our will, and everything will be fine.
Yeah.
So Jedi Council member Plo Koon shows up, and he's like, give me your baby. And they're like, we called you. And he's like, oh, can I have your baby? Yes. So then comes episode 1. Mm-hmm. Now, this can be very brief, but you got to know. Queen of Naboo, there's a trade dispute. Senator Palpatine's there. Fucking Jedi Knights, Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon Jinn go to rescue. They end up on Tatooine. They find a kid named Anakin Skywalker. The Sith have reappeared. They go back to Naboo. Qui-Gon Jinn dies. Darth Maul gets cut in half and dies, presumably. And Obi-Wan is in charge of turning Anakin Skywalker, who's supposed to be the chosen one, has a huge midichlorian count, and
also has a huge crush on the Queen of Naboo, which you're not supposed to do as a Jedi.
Yes. Well, he's not a Jedi yet, and also he's only 9 and she's 14, which you would know if you knew the Weird Al song. Mm-hmm. You should go listen to it. So, meanwhile, in the unknown regions, we're jumping around a lot.
Yeah, we're all over the place.
There are going to be a lot of things where you're going to be like, okay, we're going to pin that. That's going to come back later. Okay. I'm sorry. These are the rants of a crazy man that knows too much about Star Wars. Just fucking deal with it.
If you had a corkboard, it would have Pepe Sylvia on it.
Yep. So there's a race of aliens called the Chiss. Mm-hmm. They're blue. They have red eyes. They're out in the unknown regions, which is separated from the rest of the galaxy because of a weird cataclysm that happens in the Old Republic era, where there's this huge accident in hyperspace.
Hyperspace just doesn't work between here and there.
Right. So it's very dangerous, and you, like, if you don't have the Force, you're probably going to die trying to traverse it and everything, right? So this race of people called the Chiss are like very political, and this is where a young man called Mithran Urodo,
or just Thrawn,
which is way easier to say.
No one ever uses his full name. He's just Thrawn.
Right. So he's born, and he's like a genius level tactician, and he likes art. He could tell what kind of cancer you'll have if you sit down and like draw a penis and everything and be like, you have cancer.
He's really fucking smart is what we're saying. So
episode 2 happens. Mm-hmm. There's an assassination attempt on Senator Amidala, Count Dooku, and the Separatists. They're trying to secede from the Republic. Mm-hmm. Anakin is a horny teenager in a religion that isn't allowed to bang. So here's an idea. Let's send him on a solo mission with the love of his life. Everything will be fine there. Mm-hmm. Obi-Wan discovers there's a clone army. Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme are captured on Geonosis. The Clone Wars start, and the Jedi are pulled into a war as generals. They don't want to do that.
The Jedi arguably start the war? I mean, they kind of just show up and say, hey, we're fighting now.
Yeah, we're in this. We're in it now. Meanwhile, Chancellor Palpatine now is all like, ooh. All right. Wartime has made the Jedi very stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, Anakin has graduated to Jedi Knight before some people would argue he's ready. Seconds after he becomes a Jedi Knight, he's given a Padawan. Because a lot of Jedi Masters are now dead, and that's the best the Jedi can do. And that Padawan...
This was a plot point in that recent book,
Yeah,
Rise of the Red
right.
Blade.
So that Padawan's name is Ahsoka Tano.
Mm-hmm.
So Ahsoka, in the beginning...
She's orange. She holds her lightsaber backwards. She's
Yes.
really annoying in the
She
beginning.
is very annoying. She calls Anakin Sky Guy. It gets to me every fucking time I hear it. But she's kind of like, she's promising.
Yeah.
And, you know...
She does cool flips.
Yeah.
She cuts droids in half.
The master-apprentice relationship between them is really funny. Anakin has no idea what the fuck he's doing as a teacher, and he like takes the sink or swim method with Ahsoka, where he's like, "We're just gonna shoot you, and you're gonna keep blocking. If you get shot,
That's your fault."
Yep. Ahsoka makes some friends during the Clone Wars, including Captain Rex, who like a lot of the clones. All of them are individuals,
Yes.
despite no one thinking as them as individuals.
And sometimes they just pick names.
Yeah,
instead
right.
of going by their numbers.
Yeah, so Captain Rex is her guy.
Yeah.
That's her clone guy. And she makes a friend called Barriss Offee, who is a Padawan to the Jedi Knight, Jedi Master Luminara Unduli, which, by the way, they're both the same race.
Yeah.
And I understand that there are usually human-human Master Padawan pairs, but normally with other races, you don't see two of the same race, which I thought was pretty interesting.
I would argue it's just statistics.
Probably.
Like, humans are supposed to be the most populous race in the galaxy.
Yeah.
So
It's just kind of cool.
Yeah.
They probably both have nothing, like they don't know anything about their past because they're Jedi.
Yeah.
So during the Clone Wars, there's a planet called Ryloth, and it's having its own entire story.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So freedom fighters are fighting against the Separatists. They're led by a guy named Cham Syndulla, who has a daughter named Hera, and she has a droid named Chopper. So we're going to pin that over here.
Mm-hmm.
On Mandalore, the Mandalorians are, for some reason, no one can understand, pacifists. And they're neutral during the Clone Wars. And there's actually a reason for this. And
There's like 3 different factions of Mandalorians.
They are very good at fighting each other.
Yes.
So they're like, if we don't fight at all, it'll solve the whole problem. Right? No. So they're led by the Mandalorian Duchess Satine, who, by the way,
Obi-Wan has a huge boner for.
he fell in love with her when he was a teenager. And actually, turns out might have actually left the Jedi Order for her, but neither of them would have asked the other to abandon their duty. That's how committed they were and shit. Oh, Darth Maul is alive, motherfuckers. The top half, not the bottom half.
Yes.
And he's real mad at Obi-Wan and Darth Sidious.
Understandably
Yeah,
so.
because he was just a tool. He was used as a tool.
And now he's half of a tool.
Yeah. Yeah. And so he's plotting his revenge against both, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maul has a brother. His name's Savage.
Savage Opress.
Dumbest name in all of
Which
Star
is
Wars.
the most Star Wars name
Yes.
imaginable.
There's a Mandalorian cult called Death Watch, and it's a Mandalorian sect that opposes Satine's pacifism. And so Maul takes his brother, Death Watch, some other criminal enterprises, unites them, and takes over Mandalore. And he murders Satine right in front of Obi-Wan, which, when you watch it, is heartbreaking every single time. Obi-Wan doesn't turn to the dark side, by the way. Just saying.
He's better than that.
Yeah. So Maul wins the Darksaber. So now he's the boss of Mandalore.
Mm-hmm.
What's the Darksaber? It's a black lightsaber. The Mandalorians think it's pretty, so whoever has it is the boss of Mandalore.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know. So the Mandalorians all break off into clans. And there's the Children of the Watch. And they rescue a little boy named Din Djarin during the Clone Wars. Okay?
Just stick a pin in that.
Yep. Somewhere in here, Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Ahsoka go to Mortis. And this is a weird fucking thing in Clone Wars, but I think it's very, very important to probably what we're going to see in Ahsoka. It's this weird Force realm ruled by Force gods called the Son, the Daughter, and the Father, who represents the dark side, the light side, and the balance of the Force, respectively. Ahsoka is killed, but the daughter gives up her life to bring her back. And when she comes back, like Amorai, which is like a space owl, starts to follow Ahsoka around, and it's like a reminder of the daughter or whatever. Mm-hmm. Right after this, or sometime after this, Padme goes on a mission in the Clone Wars and doesn't text Anakin back, and because he's perfectly balanced and not at all obsessed, he takes it well.
He does not take it well.
That is a lie. He does not take it well at all. He immediately goes to rescue her and meets this blue dude named Thrawn. Right? Thrawn is just hanging out, trying to find allies for the Chiss, They need allies for like this upcoming war.
Because it's not easy being blue.
Yeah. And he like Thrawn thinks Anakin's pretty rad, so they become buds, right?
Yeah.
They have a little adventure together. Doesn't matter what they do. Anakin rescues Padme. Turns out she probably didn't need him to rescue her at all. And the war rages on.
She never needs him to rescue her. Padme is way more competent than Anakin is.
Yeah, that is true. So they return to Coruscant to discover that someone did a 9/11 on the Jedi Temple, and lots of people died. And plot twist: Ahsoka Tano has been framed, and she's expelled from the Jedi Order. And this is like the peak of the Jedi stupidity. And it's where I realized that the Jedi brought their fate on themselves, right? Because there's no reason for them to have done what they did, and literally any amount of investigating would have proven her innocence. Nah, they don't have fucking time for it, so they just expel her, right? It's stupid as fuck. So Ahsoka does her own investigating, and after like 5 minutes discovers that her old friend Barriss Offee is responsible. What's her motive? The Jedi have become an army for the dark side and are too violent, so her reaction was to kill a lot of people. Make sense to you? It made sense to her. So the Jedi Council is like, oh, well, we're sorry.
Our bad.
Yeah.
Did you want to be a Jedi again?
You guys want to come back? You want to come back? And she's like,
Ahsoka's like, no.
No, you guys suck. And this is like a starting catalyst for Anakin's resentment of the Jedi Council. Because he never believed that she did it. And like he advocated for her throughout and he tried to help her and shit. So pinning that up, we're going to bring that back later. Bo-Katan Kryze, who is a Mandalorian, recruits Ahsoka to help take Mandalore back from Maul, who is still leading Mandalore.
Yep.
He's like, I'm king of Mandalore, everyone suck it. And Bo-Katan Kryze is like, no, I will not do that. And so they hatch this plan to take over Mandalore. So Ahsoka leads a special squad of clones from the 501st to take Mandalore back. She beats Maul in a fucking epic duel. Okay. Meanwhile, Palpatine is kidnapped by General Grievous, and Obi-Wan and Anakin rescue him. Turns out Padme is pregnant.
This is all episode 3, by
yes, and Anakin has some bad dreams about her dying. Palpatine plants the seeds of betrayal with the tale of Darth Plagueis the Wise. Obi-Wan is sent to Utapau to defeat General Grievous and bring it into the war. Palpatine comes out to Anakin as a Sith, comes out of the closet. He's like, I'm a Sith. And he's like, that's not what I thought you would say. Mace Windu and friends go to arrest Palpatine. Most of them die.
It does not go well.
But Mace Windu defeats Palpatine in a duel. But Anakin helps Palpatine because he has the secret to keep Padme alive, which was a lie to begin with.
Yes.
So Mace Windu dies. Order 66 happened.
Mace Windu is dead, by the way.
Sorry. Now, all the clones have this little backup thing where they're like, execute Order 66.
Chip in their heads, or execute Order 66. Okay, kill the nearest Jedi.
Yeah, and they kill all the Jedi. So most of the Jedi are killed. Not Grogu, who is a little baby Yoda.
Who is saved by...
Kelleran Beck.
Kelleran Beck, the actor who plays Jar Jar.
Yeah. Caleb Dune survives. His Master Depa Billaba is gunned down right in front of him. Ahsoka survives because she's kind of a badass now. And
Cal Kestis survives.
Yes. He doesn't really factor into this much, actually.
No.
But
he's out there.
Yeah. So she's on Mandalore doing all this when Order 66 happens, when they're on their way back. And her clones try to gun her down. And she's like, you know what? Fuck it. She lets Maul out of his prison cell. And she's like, I need you to do something evil. And he's like, oh, girl, I got this.
I thought you'd never ask.
So she helps her friend Rex get his inhibitor chip out. So Obi-Wan and Anakin duel in Mustafar. It doesn't go well for Anakin. He gets burned alive.
He tries it when he should not try it.
Yeah, exactly. Darth Vader is born in the way that we know him, which is black helmet and shit. So Padme, his wife, probably ex-wife at this point, dies during childbirth.
She loses the will to live.
Yes, gives birth to twins. Yoda and Obi-Wan exile themselves to watch over them. One of these, by the way, gets a much better deal than the other one. Leia gets to live in opulence with a politician. Luke literally sucks sand or water out of sand and tries to sell it for a living his entire life. So Darth Sidious has won. His master plan to take over the Republic has worked.
He wins.
He reorganizes the Republic into the Galactic Empire. Vader now has a little hobby.
Mm-hmm.
And his hobby is hunting down the Jedi that survived Order 66. And he's using a group of Dark Force users called Inquisitors, led by the Grand Inquisitor, who used to be a Jedi Temple guard.
Mm-hmm. Most of the Inquisitors are like former Jedi trainees or people who were either
Force sensitive or...
either fell to the dark side themselves or were forced.
Right. So Ahsoka tries to do the hidden Jedi life, but is tracked down by an Inquisitor who she kills despite the fact that she's unarmed and he has one of the twirly lightsabers. She's like, nah, bro. Just cuts him down. Yeah. So Bail Organa, who adopts Leia, recruits Ahsoka to fight against the Empire. She's bored and she's lonely, so she says, fine.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. She uses the codename Fulcrum to organize cells of freedom fighters to fight against the Empire.
Okay.
Meanwhile, Thrawn is discovered by Palpatine and is fast-tracked through Imperial School. Which
because he's smart as fuck.
Makes everyone hate him. And it's actually pretty extraordinary because Palpatine does not like aliens, but he really likes Thrawn because Thrawn really is exceptional, right?
Yeah. He
quickly rises through the ranks and becomes a Grand Admiral. Meanwhile, a group of friends form on the good guy side. There's Kanan Jarrus, a secret former Jedi, Sabine Wren, who's a brilliant scientist and inventor from Mandalore, Harrison Dula, a famed freedom fighter from Ryloth, Zeb, whose race was practically eradicated by the Empire, and Chopper, who's a very violent, murderous astromech droid. They do little missions for it's not even the proto-rebellion yet. It's not even that yet, right?
It's just, Fulcrum's buddies.
Right. So, a couple of things to know about Hera and Kanan. They're fucking.
Okay.
That's pretty much it, actually. There's just one thing to know about Hera and Kanan. They're doing it.
The good thing about the Jedi falling is that now Kanan fucks.
Yeah. So, this group, who are called the Spectres, go to Lothal, and they steal supplies, and they meet a young street rat called Aladdin. Ezra Bridger. Ezra's parents are presumably killed by the Empire, but he's like in denial about it.
Yeah.
But he's force sensitive, and Kanan has a conversation with Ezra. This is how it goes. Kanan's like, "I'm going to train you to be a Jedi," and Ezra's like, "Okay." That's the start of their relationship.
Yeah.
So now there are two Jedi.
This is getting out of hand. Now there are two of them
with nice lightsabers running around creating problems for the Empire, which is a job for the Inquisitorius.
Or Vader.
The Inquisitorius.
Okay.
Vader doesn't get involved unless it's super serious, right? Or unless he gets bored.
Yeah.
Usually when he gets bored, he just kills Inquisitors, and that's funny. So, turns out Kanan is not a very good teacher because he never became a Jedi Knight himself. But they figure out a good rhythm, and Kanan's like, okay, this is going fine. We'll be fine so long as Ezra isn't tempted by the dark side, because I have not done a great job of preparing him for that.
Next episode, Ezra gets tempted by the dark
Not
side.
yet. So they visit a hidden Jedi temple on Lothal, which in my notes I have as the Jedi Temple of Coincidence, because there just so happens to be a Jedi temple there.
It's just there.
Kanan gets a force call from Yoda, who gives him advice. Ezra gets a Kyber crystal, and he makes a blaster lightsaber hybrid, which is really kind of neat.
Yeah.
Random fact about Ezra. He can control beasts with his mind, kind of like how Trump can declassify highly sensitive military intelligence with his mind. It's like that but with animals, okay?
Yeah. And also real?
Yeah. Allegedly. Kanan is captured by the Grand Inquisitor because he's chasing them all around and shit, and is taken to Vader's palace on Mustafar and tortured to draw to draw Ezra and shit. So the Spectres lead a daring escape. Kanan and Ezra kill the Grand Inquisitor, and everyone gets away. Vader comes home to his palace and was like, the fuck? Like, I was gone for 10 minutes. Who wrecked my palace?
I told you guys not to throw parties here. What are you doing?
And they're like, Kanan and Ezra did it. And he's like, all right, so I'm going to go find them and kill them.
But first I'm going to kill a couple Inquisitors because you guys ignore me.
Just to release some stress, So Ahsoka rescues Ezra and Kanan from Inquisitors in the next season. And she becomes a part of the crew. Her introduction in Rebels is badass. Like, the last time you see her, she's kind of a whiny teenager. These Inquisitors are like closing in on Ezra and Kanan and shit. There's this big fucking door that opens. Ahsoka's just standing there, is like, who wants to fucking die? Pulls her like two white fucking lightsabers. The Inquisitors are like, oh, we'll be right back. And she like beats both of them, right? So she's a part of the crew now. she's way cooler than she was in Clone Wars.
Yes.
Like, this is where I started to really like Ahsoka. So Kanan and Ezra end up facing off with Darth Vader. It doesn't go well, and they both almost die.
No.
So somewhere in here, Ahsoka figures out that Vader is Anakin Skywalker. It goes something like this. Anakin does a mind meld with Vader while they're in spaceships, and Vader's like...
Ahsoka does mind meld with Vader.
Yeah. And Vader's like,
oh.
hello? And she's like, oh, shit, this is Anakin Skywalker. And he's like, oh, shit, this is Ahsoka.
Hey, I know you.
Yeah. And she's like, okay, well, this is disconcerting. Goodbye. So somewhere in here, Ahsoka reconnects with Rex, who is hanging out with other clones who escaped the Empire. They're old and they have dad bods, but like they're doing well for themselves. Yeah. Kanan doesn't like clones, by the way, because his master was gunned down.
By clones, yeah.
He gets over it. Rex joins the rebellion. And the squad discovers Purgles, hyperspace traveling space whales.
Okay.
Right. Ezra mind melds with one. Is like, hey, you want to be friends? And the whale's like, I mean, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
So Kanan, Ezra, and Ahsoka keep running into Inquisitors and narrowly escaping. So Kanan's like, I've got an idea. Let's go back to the Jedi Temple in Lothal and force call Yoda, and he'll tell us what to do again. So they go to the temple. Kanan overcomes his like self-doubt and officially becomes a Jedi Knight. Mm-hmm. Ahsoka confirms what she already knew about Anakin, which is that he's the same as Darth Vader. And Ezra does the talk with Yoda, right? And Yoda's like, the key of defeating the Sith is Malachor. And Ezra's like, who the fuck is Malachor? And Yoda's like, you're an idiot. It's a planet. And Ezra's like, oh, okay, thanks. And Yoda's like, lose this number. Stop calling me. Got shit to do. So they got
shit to do sitting in the swamp.
Yeah. So they go to Malachor and they find an old Sith temple. And they all get separated. Ezra finds a much older Darth Maul who is just like hobbling around, honestly kind of a badass. It's like he seems pretty driven. He's got a plan. Mm-hmm. And yeah. So he earns Ezra's trust. He doesn't know who the fuck he is. He's like, I'm just an old guy with horns. You can trust me. If you can't trust an old guy with horns, who the fuck can you trust?
Horns and weird metal legs.
Yeah. Everyone reunites and they fight the Inquisitors. It's Ahsoka, Kanan, Ezra, Maul versus the Inquisitors. But like Maul's an agent of chaos the entire time, where he's like, maybe I'll fight on their side, or maybe I won't.
Yeah.
So turns out the Sith Temple is a weapon that Maul is trying to use, but he needs the help of an apprentice who he wants to be Ezra, right? So Maul fights Kanan, permanently blinds him, but Kanan's able to like use the Force and defeat him.
Yeah.
Ezra, as Ezra is trying to like deactivate the weapon by pulling a holocron out, Vader shows up. A fucking bitchin' intro, by the way. There's a light coming down. Fucking, you see a TIE fighter floating down. He's standing on top of it. It's just like his TIE Advance, right? And he's just standing there like, "What's up, bitches?" So he looks at Ezra and he's like, "What's going on here?" And Ezra's like, "I don't fear you." And he's like, "Well, you're a fucking idiot."
Should.
Yeah. So Ezra and Vader fight. It's no contest. Ezra loses.
Yes.
So Ahsoka shows up, fights Vader. She damages his mask. There's a great scene, just like in Kenobi, where his mask split open. Mm-hmm. And Ahsoka is like, I'm not going to leave you this time. Like, it's just me and you. And so she sacrifices herself to save Kanan and Ezra, and she's presumably killed by Vader. Mm-hmm. But they get away. Fast forward a year or two. Ezra has a green lightsaber and is kind of a badass now, right? And now he's being tempted by the dark side. And it's like the one thing that Kanan didn't know how to deal with, right? So Ezra also wants to bone Sabine, and she might want to bone him back. It's not exactly clear. Kanan hangs out with the Bendu, who is a Force user who represents like balance and doesn't pick sides or whatever. He teaches Kanan some shit about the Force. Yeah. The rebels become Phoenix Squadron.
Okay.
Enter Grand Admiral Thrawn. Mm-hmm. He's tasked with finding the rebels and killing them. So at this point, Grand Admiral Thrawn is easily like the sharpest military mind in the entire Empire. And he delivers defeat after defeat against the rebels. Even when they win, Thrawn is actually the one that won, because he gets information about them and all this other shit. So at some point, Agent Callus becomes a spy for the Proto-Rebellion after he and Zeb hang out in an episode. Thrawn is able to figure out that there's a spy, but he doesn't know who it is. Ezra and Darth Maul hang out again, and they go to Dathomir, and they both have a Force vision that they both have to find Kenobi on Tatooine. Okay. So they go to Tatooine. They're not friends, but they're like, I guess we're doing this together.
Road trip.
Yeah. Obi-Wan is full Ben Kenobi at this point. He's old, he's gray, and he's wise. He tells Ezra, he's like, do your own fucking thing. Walk your own fucking path. Get out of here. So Maul finds Ben, and there's this amazing exchange where, like, Maul's trying to figure out what he's doing here. He's like, what the fuck you must be protecting something or maybe someone. And Ben's like, well, now you gotta fucking die. And he pulls out a lightsaber and it goes like this. Maul, swing, Obi-Wan kills him. 2 swings, a slash, and it's fucking over. That's it, right? Mm-hmm. One of my favorite lightsaber duels ever. So, as Maul dies, Ben's like got him in his arms and shit. Mm-hmm. And Ben's like, the kid I'm protecting is going to tear Palpatine down. And Maul's like, that's great. And dies.
Great. Yeah. Thanks for letting me know.
Yeah. And he dies with a measure of peace. Yeah. Because the only thing he cared about was revenge. And Ben kind of gave it to him. He's like, oh, he'll get what's coming to him. Don't worry. So while Ezra and Maul were on Dathomir, Sabine and Kanan goes to look for them in Sabine, and they find the Darksaber. She hatches a plan to return home and reunite Mandalorians. Kanan trains her in the art of lightsaber combat, but during their training, she doesn't show any signs of being force sensitive. Mm-hmm. So this thing about how like she maybe is going to be a Jedi because like Ahsoka ends up training her too, I'm not sure it's because of the force. So shit goes down on Mandalore. Sabine defeats Gar Saxon. Who's Gar Saxon? He's an asshole. It's like it doesn't matter.
It's fine.
Yeah. Now the Mandos are in open rebellion against the Empire. Mon Mothma is ousted from the Imperial Senate. She's like, fine, we tried diplomacy, now we'll try violence. And so she puts together the rebellion. Mm-hmm. Thrawn figures out that Agent Callus is the spy. He narrowly escapes and he joins the rebellion. He's got mutton chops. It's literally all you gotta know about him. The Mandos go to war with the Empire. Bo-Katan shows up to help. The Empire has a machine that Sabine built that destroys Beskar. But like, she fixes it so it only works on Stormtrooper armor, and they beat the Empire on Mandalore. So they retreat. Sabine gives the Darksaber to Bo-Katan, and she becomes the leader. The rebellion is now on...
Wait, I thought that's not how the Darksaber works. It has to be one.
That is going to be a problem later.
Okay.
So, the rebellion is now on Yavin 4, which is where that's where everyone, rumors start to emerge about a weapon the Empire is building with giant kyber crystals.
Perhaps a star made of death?
Yeah. So
or justice.
Yeah.
A justice star.
Oh, that's a deep...
that's a callback.
So... Thrawn goes to Lothal and starts terrorizing people. He's also building TIE Defenders there. It's like a project he's working on, but it's mostly just to draw the rebels out. Yeah. So so the rebels go there to tell him to stop and
tell him to stop with guns.
Yeah. So Ezra makes friends with a giant white wolf.
Okay.
The entire time, Thrawn's Nogri assassin Rook is chasing them, which by the way is a character from Legends. He's fucking awesome. Mm-hmm. Is chasing them around and trying to kill them. It turns out that some really weird force shit is happening on Lothal, which is why the Jedi built the temple there in the first place. So Hera attempts to fight Thrawn as a military commander. It doesn't go well because he's a genius. Like, Thrawn learned everything there was to know about her from a piece of art, and Hera gets captured. So remember, Kanan and Hera are boning, so this is a problem. Kanan leads a rescue and sacrifices himself so they can escape. It's very emotional. It's beautifully written and animated. It gets me every time I watch it, and he dies. Turns out that Kanan's sacrifice also cripples the Empire's TIE Defender factory, which is like an added bonus. Mm-hmm. This wolf that talks, he pretty much only says Dune for some reason, says, hey, except for this part. He goes, hey, go to the Jedi Temple there on Lothal. There's some weird force shit happening there, and you should know about it. So they go, and it turns out the Empire is already there trying to excavate it. And there's like a Sith historian there, and there's a mural of the gods from Mortis. Mm-hmm. Ezra walks up to the mural. He's like, the Force. And then it sucks him into the world between worlds.
What's the world between worlds? It's time travel shit.
It's kind of another worlds connecting different points in time. Yeah. The best way I can explain it. Ezra sees a portal with Ahsoka. Well, he sees a portal with Ahsoka's space owl sitting on it, right? Mm-hmm. And the owl's like, hey, come over here and pull Ahsoka out of here. Like, she's about to get her shit wrecked by Vader in that fight from like 2 seasons ago. And he's like, oh, I can just do that. And he's like, yeah. Like, why would I have told you to do it if you couldn't do it? That. So he reaches in and pulls Ahsoka out right as Vader's about to kill her. Like, Vader's like, the fuck?
Huh?
And then the floor gives out underneath him and he falls through.
Yeah.
And Ahsoka's like,
the fuck?
Yeah. So, meanwhile, Palpatine is trying very hard to use Sith sorcery to get into the world between worlds. This obviously would be very bad for everyone in the universe, right?
Because it would mean he would win even harder.
Yes. So, Ezra has the opportunity to save Kanan in the same fashion, but chooses between him and stopping Palpatine. He chooses to stop Palpatine. Meanwhile, the rebels are fighting on Lothal. Ezra shows up on Thrawn's ship, and his friends, the space whales, show up. Mm-hmm. The space whales grab the ship, and they
all disappear into hyperspace.
Right. No one knows where they went.
No one knows what happened.
The rebellion wins the war.
Huzzah!
And Ahsoka the White and Sabine, because she's wearing the white, vow to go and find Ezra. Hera gives birth to Kanan's son, Jason. Moff Gideon shows up with a Darksaber. He took it after destroying all of Mandalore in the War of the Empire, the Night of 1,000 Tears or whatever. Yeah. Bo-Katan is now in exile. A Mandalorian called Din Djarin is hired to kill a Force-sensitive child that is the same race as Yoda. He instead vows to take him back to his people, who are the Jedi. Bo-Katan's like, I only know one Jedi. It's Ahsoka. Go talk to her. After a brief adventure, Mando helps Ahsoka defeat Morgan Elsbeth, and Ahsoka demands to know where Thrawn is. So she beats Morgan Elsbeth. She's like, where the fuck is Thrawn? We never hear the answer. Mm-hmm. Ahsoka refuses to train Grogu. He's like, I'm not going to do that. I know I said I might, but I'm not actually.
I'm not a kid person.
So I'll do the next best thing.
Just fucking go to Tython, sit him down on the Seeing Stone. Someone will take care of him.
He'll commune with someone. Someone will take him.
Someone.
Yeah. So Tython happens. Grogu sits on the stone and presumably talks to someone, but is kidnapped by Moff Gideon. So Mando hatches a daring rescue with Bo-Katan, and they're pinned down by an army of dark troopers. And at the 11th hour of their death, fucking solitary X-wing shows up. Mysterious hooded Jedi starts single-handedly laying waste to this entire dark.
And of course, it's
trooper.
Luke Skywalker. Yeah. Everybody knows this part.
So he takes Grogu to be trained. Mm-hmm. Luke and Ahsoka are hanging out while he's training Grogu. It's not apparent why she's there, but they're friends at this point. And Luke knows that Grogu's connection to the Mando is going to be a problem. So he's like, here's a choice: you stay or you go with Daddy Mando. And he's like, I want to go with Daddy Mando. And he's like,
okay, cool.
In that case, I can't even be bothered to give you a ride myself. You can take the X-wing. R2 will take you. Yeah. I've got shit to do.
I got to run Jedi camp.
Yeah. So Bo-Katan and Mando with Grogu return to Mandalore. There's an epic battle. Moff Gideon is defeated, and Bo-Katan is now the leader again. Mando adopts Grogu, and they live happily ever after.
31 and a half minutes.
That's pretty much all of it.
Yeah.
Like I said, if I missed anything, put it in the comments.
Everything you need to know about Ahsoka in 32 minutes.
Yeah. I'm sure I missed a lot of stuff. I was doing a lot of that just from what I remember from Star Wars. Scott says, forgot to mention I finished Jedi Survivor last weekend. Nice. Which I don't know if I mentioned it already or not. I don't know, but I'm glad that you told us. Chris says, may the Force be with you, Daniel. And Chris, thank you so much for your awesome Star Wars content. You're welcome.
Hey,
thanks for consuming it. All right, cool.
So
cool. we're doing
we gotta play video games.
Yeah, we're gonna go play video games. Check us out here in a couple minutes. We'll talk more about it.